Welcome to the Rock Your Comeback podcast. I'm Nicole Eaton, author of the books Rock Your Soul and Rock Your Comeback, as well as an intuitive therapist, and I'm here to remind you of your power. This podcast focuses on mindset and inviting the universe in to create a life that feels so good, so aligned, and so authentic. I hope you're ready. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Rock Your Comeback podcast. I am so excited for this story today. This was one of the most beautiful podcasts I've ever had the privilege of recording. And if you need a little empowerment, this is the episode to listen to. This story is absolutely wild and will really change your perspective on how to go through life and how to live. I sit down with Mckemey. He is incredible, and I cannot wait to share his story with you. But I need a favor from you first. If you love this podcast, if you listen to this podcast, make sure you leave a review. Make sure you share it with somebody you really love or on social media and tag me. And let's keep the energy going. And make sure to give Connor a follow. He is an incredible human and speaker, and you are going to absolutely love him. Also, as a reminder, check out the Comeback Club. We've got a cool class being released this Friday on releasing limiting beliefs and EFT tapping with Erica Cordero from Align with Erica, and you guys are going to love it. So if you want to, you can use the code THANKS22, all capitals, to get your first month for $5 only. And it's only $22 after that. And I think you're worth investing in. So let us know what you think about this podcast, and I hope you enjoy it. Welcome back to another episode of the Rock Your Comeback podcast. I'm your host, Nicole Eaton, and today's guest is so interesting, has the most incredible story. I'm here with Connor Mckemey. He's a 90% burn survivor who turned into a best-selling author and national speaker, literally going from 1% chance of survival to taking back his life, living out his dream, and now he's using his platform to spread messages of overcoming adversity and handling life's toughest challenges. Connor, I'm thrilled to have you. I think this is going to be an incredible conversation.
I appreciate you having me on. And yeah, I'm looking forward to this for sure.
So this is, so in alignment. This is called Rock Your Comeback, right? Of how do you come back? And I don't even want to ruin your story. I just want to hear you tell it, if that's okay.
Yeah, of course. It's always fun going back, since this has been a positive journey, not to spoil anything, but I probably wouldn't be on the podcast if it didn't turn out okay. But, my life started out pretty normal as a typical teenager. I was involved in sports and school, having a good normal life. And one of the things that you were kind of growing to do is I was interested in this girl and she was interested in me. And I was like, look, I was a little romantic kid, High School Musical was on, like that was kind of going through my head. And so I was like, look, I can't drive. You don't have money. Going to the movie is like a terrible first date because you can't even talk to the person. You're just like sitting there watching a film. So I was like, look, we've been friends for a long time. We were trying to see if there was something else going on. So I had some s'mores out, like make a little fire. We can sit out, listen to some music, and just hang out and talk and just, chat. To me, that was the most romantic thing I could probably think of at the time. And, as somebody who likes to prepare, I wanted the scene to be set when she showed up. So I got everything ready. I had the music going. I had the lights out there, the blankets, everything was set. And the last thing I needed to do was get the fire started. And this is something that I had done countless times with my brothers, my dad, over the years. And for whatever reason, this particular night, I couldn't get it to light. Like it would start and it would go out. It would start, it would go out. And I was rushing and rushing and rushing because I wanted her to get here. And as I'm going through that, the next thing I know, I have this explosion push me back. And I'm basically eyes shut, surrounded by this red-orange glow. And before I know it, I just take off and pushed to the ground by my mom, who heard the bang. My next door neighbor came over with towels to wrap me up. And when I opened my eyes, I could just see, the skin is charcoaled and black. I'm missing pretty much all of my shirt. And, at that moment, you don't know what the extent of the injury is or how bad things are, but it's not great. And I kept trying to tell people I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. But when I got in the back of the ambulance, I'm able to look over and ask the EMTs and ask, what's going on. And before I get a response, it basically cuts to black. And next thing I know, I wake up 3 months later in a hospital bed in a completely new body. Yeah.
Fun. So were you in a coma for 3 months or?
Uh, Yeah, like a medically induced coma for about 3 months while they went through, obviously the surgeries and the care and making sure, time for these things to heal. But, the initial diagnosis was that I had a 1% chance of survival. And their goal was really to keep me alive long enough so my dad, who was coming back from Iraq, could see me one more time, and this was right around the holiday season, and so we had friends and family from all over the country come to the hospital, and they basically just waited 24 hours, 48 hours, 72 hours. And as they continued to do tests and saw that the biggest positive was my internal organs weren't damaged, but with a 90% burn and 75% being third degree, that was skin that was going to take time to replace. And it was a waiting game. And it took a lot of battles with my parents to try to save, hands and feet and fingers and toes, so that when I did wake up, I saw that I still had somewhat of a semblance of a body I knew. But when I woke up, I was probably about 6 foot and like 120 pounds. I went from being a really athletic teenager to, skin and bones, literally. And, it was tough. It was tough to digest because again, for me, I went to sleep basically and woke up in a completely new world.
Take me to that moment you woke up. Like, did you remember what had happened to you, or was that kind of shocking? What was your mindset like?
I think for me, I've always had a fairly clear picture of the actual accident, and I've always had that, and that's something I'll always live with. So when I woke up, I understood that I had been burned, but you don't know like what that means. Like I didn't understand why my body was wrapped head to toe in bandages, why my fingers, had pins in them, like all these different things that were going on. You couldn't comprehend because, burn survivors, especially on that scale, like very few people make it, let alone like see them in the world. So there was no representation or a path for me to know. And I think the hardest part I always talk about when I woke up, I was still on the ventilator. So I wasn't able to even talk or express my feelings. It was just sitting there for a couple of days, like trying to comprehend what's going on while you're on, incredibly high doses of pain medicine and all sorts of other things that are running in and out of your body to keep you alive and keep you, you know, in some state of comfort, right? Because I think burn injuries, if you ask anybody, are one of the most severe as far as pain goes, because you're literally having to regrow skin. I mean, we skin our knees, or even if you just like burn your hand on a stove and you go take a shower, that like little burning sensation, and it doesn't feel great. I mean, that's your whole body at this point. So, that was part of why I was in the coma for 3 months, to try to alleviate as much as possible. But then you get to a point where it's like, all right, we got to get them moving. We got to see, what the next steps are going to be.
Yeah. Holy shit. That's it's a wild experience because I think that's such a good reminder that at any point, every single thing that you knew was normal can change. So now you're in the hospital and you've got a completely new normal. You're dealing with this pain. You're dealing with like, what is my body and my skin like? Do I still have my finger? Like, there's so much that's going through your mind, I imagine, at that point in time. What was it like when you got out of the hospital? Like, we know you're okay now. We know, but I feel like I would be depressed. I feel like that would be where my head would go.
So for me, I think I was so driven by the recovery and getting back to like a normal life that it was hard to, obviously I would had down moments, and I was very devastated early on in the recovery process. But once I started like walking again, I started moving again, I started accomplishing things that they already said were impossible, and you started adding to your collection, then it was just like, oh, well, what's the next thing? And you're like so singular focused on, I want to go back to high school, I want to go back to playing sports again, I want, you know what I'm saying? Like I didn't give myself time to think about or rely. And then to add on to that, there was supported by such an incredible community of people that like they only treated me as Connor. So as I started to get back to that normal life, those people never like walked on eggshells. They said the same jokes. We cut up. We had fun. You know what I'm saying? And like I got to live in that bubble, and it was always odd for me when I left that bubble. You go to like, public areas that aren't, in your town, and people will stare at you or people will come up and ask what happened as I was still healing, and you go back to like, oh yeah, I'm going through this, and I was so focused on what I was trying to do next that there wasn't a lot of time to sit there and feel sorry for myself. And I knew early on that I had to be a participant in the change that I wanted to see, right? I had to be active in that. And if I sat there and felt sorry for myself and wallowed in that self pity, like things were never going to change. It's not like a snap of a finger and it would fix. I was as low as I could go. It's like the only way for me was looking up and taking that next step. It was like you can't get any lower than where I went. And so as we started to progress, it was like, look at where we've been and look at where we're going. The sky was the limit. And I try not to let myself get too down, but everybody has those days. And there was times with, relationships with friends, family, girls, whatever, where you look at yourself and you struggle with what you see in the mirror. But I started early on having such a great appreciation for what my body was able to do and all the great things it was able to do, that it wasn't about looking different or standing out. I'm a big guy regardless. I'm 6'3", I'm a big dude. I can walk into any room and you're going to notice me. So like I shouldn't be ashamed of that or feel down about that. It's like embrace that. You have something unique about you, and when you walk around with the smile on your face, like that can make such a difference to somebody else who's struggling with that, self doubt or self talk. And so that I kind of took that as a chip on my shoulder to do and try to live by that.
There's so many people who are listening who are in kind of a turbulent part or a black hole of their personal life. And it sounds like the big things that were helpful for you were really finding hope, finding a goal, and really keeping focused on that goal. Because I do think when we give ourselves too much time to sit in that self pity or self loathing, it can really easily compile and grow into
Hmm.
this bigger thing. And it also sounds like support was such a massive piece for you.
Yeah, I mean, I always try to talk about and stress that there wasn't one part of my journey that I felt like I was going through it alone. Like I had to deal with the pain, I had to deal with, the surgeries and the setbacks and the physical aspects of it, but emotionally I always felt supported. That came from my parents, my brothers, the community. And as I've gone through life, I mean, you just see there's great people out there, and we spend way too much time on, maybe the people that are negative or bring us down. But when we embrace those that just truly love us for who we are, they were the ones that made me feel comfortable in my own skin. They were the ones that allowed me to embrace who I was, and I needed. If I didn't feel like I was walking this journey with those people and still walking, the journey with those people, it would have been 10 times harder. And without a doubt, when you sit there and you spend time thinking about it and thinking about it, and that was the hardest part in the hospital. You physically can't move, you can't go anywhere. All you can do is think about it. And for me, it was, look, if I'm gonna be sitting here and thinking about what could possibly go wrong, I might as well spend the same time and think about what possibly could go right, and try to have some belief and try to have some hope and think about all the great possibilities that are out there. And I think for me, I've always been a dreamer. I've always felt that kind of connection, and I've always been somebody that's like, look, you can dream as big as you want, and still fall short of those dreams and goals and be successful or have a great experience. It's not always about reaching that end goal. It's about the journey towards it and having hope that you could get there, because there's going to be a lot of days where, yeah, you're faced with challenges, you're hitting that brick wall, or you have setbacks. And when you have those setbacks or you're facing those challenges, it's going back to that hope, going back to that belief, going back to that group. And I've always felt like when I didn't have those things, that's when I needed my people. I needed to rely on the belief of others, the hope of others, the love of others to give me that strength in times of need. And vice versa. I know when, we all have those people in our lives that when they're struggling, you're going to be there for them. You're going to do everything you can to give them what you need. And again, when you are walking through life with people, there's so much more power in that than when you try to walk through it alone. And I think anybody could tell you that, and across the test of time, we've seen, we need people in our lives.
For somebody listening who's like, I don't have anybody though, what would you recommend for them to find or figure out a support for whatever they're going through? Because I know there's so many people that's part of the problem, right? Is
Hmm.
I don't have the support, I don't have the connections to get out of my own way.
Yeah, well, so that, I think that was one of the reasons why I have gone down this career path, this change, and started the Mac mentality in my business, because one of my goals and one of our goals is to be a support system for people that don't feel like they have that connection. Like, I understand how important it is to have people, and I'm incredibly fortunate and blessed to have people, but I've seen how detrimental it could be when you don't have that support system and you don't have that belief from other people. And so one of the things that I take a lot of pride in is anywhere we go, anytime we try to promote what we do, it's like, look, our social media is there to post, but it's also a place for people to reach out and have conversations, or email or call or text. Like, my stuff is out there for people to reach out to. And there's nothing I would rather do than try to help make that change in somebody's life and provide a little perspective change, and maybe give them hope that they need to get through the next day, right? Because sometimes that's all you need, and then miracles happen, change happens, and when that ball of momentum starts rolling in your direction, it's an unstoppable force. And if we can help jumpstart that and kick it down the right path, then, like, that's what I want to do. And so I think I worked really hard to get back to where I wanted to go in life, and then I worked really hard to accomplish the goals that old me would have wanted to do, right? Play college lacrosse, coach college lacrosse. Like, that was my dreams as a kid. Those were the goals I always wanted. And it wasn't until I got there that I was like, look, I'm incredibly happy, but there's people out there struggling. And if you can add some change to that and be a positive force for that, that's your calling. I enjoyed lacrosse. I always felt like I was a great coach, and I can take those elements and add it into what I do today. But I just feel like on a larger scale, we're able to reach more and more people, and hopefully, enact the change that can be the difference in these lives. And we've had some great feedback. We've seen some positive results, and we're only trying to do more and more and more.
For everybody listening, I know you're hearing this story of this guy who literally was wrapped head to toe, 90% of his body burned. He also went on to be a D1 college athlete, which is, it's just beautiful to know that no matter where you're at, you do not need to stay there. I'm wondering for you, having had a pretty close call of just maybe not being here anymore, it's maybe you were a positive person before, but I'm curious if that changed your perspective in any way on just what life is.
Yeah, I mean, without a doubt, it's changed my perspective, especially knowing from where I've been, to where I am today, right? Like, the bad days that you have now are definitely not as bad as they were, or have been. And for me, it's all been bonus time, right? If I wasn't sitting there on the conversations when they were talking about 1% or whatever, right? Again, for me, I went to sleep, I woke up, this was my new reality. But in this new reality, it was like, listen, that in a split second, anything can change. So it's not worth, sweating over the little stuff, and understanding that, while we're here, let's try to make the most of it. When we have bad days, as long as we go to sleep and we can wake up the next morning, we got a chance for it to be better, right? And enjoy the time that we get with our loved ones, with our group, and life in general. It's precious, right? I could have my trajectory could have gone a million different ways, even surviving, waking up with my legs amputated or my arms amputated or anything else, right? Like, that would have completely changed my scenario. I got to be, appreciative of those blessings and those fortunes, and understand that, look, you can't take these little things for granted, and enjoy, even the struggles of life. It's like, enjoy it, embrace it, man. Because when you get through it, it's going to make you stronger. It's only going to add to you. And when you face that next challenge, you're going to have more armor, more protection, more, whatever you want to call it, that you're bringing to the next fight. And there will be one, and I know going forward I'm going to have them. But I feel prepared because I understand that, the human being, our capabilities are a lot stronger than we could ever imagine. And when our backs are against the wall and we're truly tested, we get to see what we're made of. And I can tell you from my experience and from seeing so many other stories, human beings are incredibly resilient. And, we have to take some ownership of that, because we can do some incredible things. It's just about believing, having hope, and without anything else, relying on each other.
There's somebody listening who really needed this today. And I feel that in my bones that they needed a reminder that resilience is possible, and that if they keep focused and head down on their next goal. And I think that's it, is that if you would have been like, how am I going to become a D1 athlete now? That difference in where you're at now and where you're going can seem so freaking far away, that's where I think hopelessness comes from, is the difference between where we are and where we want to be. And especially when we have something come up in our lives, like, a massive physical ailment, or a divorce, or a job loss, that we're in these spaces where it's like, well, how are any of these big dreams? And I think for me, that's something that I really preach with my clients, is like, we don't have to worry about where you're going. You can still get there. And this event doesn't mean a damn thing about what your future can hold. And so I think you're the perfect example of resilience and success, and also service, because I saw that you were doing like a hospital tour. Is that,
Mm-hmm.
can you tell me a little bit
Yeah.
about that?
Yeah. So that's kind of been a project that came together, really just a few months ago. But as a former, children's hospital patient, they do such an unbelievable job at getting you care, and you go on and you go out and you live your life, in the best way that you can. But very few kids ever come back. Right. And as we know from nursing and doctors and PTOT, everybody that's involved in the hospital system, they work very long hours, very tough times, and are, more than not underappreciated, because we rely on them to heal us, but we don't ever give back to them. And so when I was talking with my team about, what is something we can do to get back to the hospitals and to the patients as a kid, right? Like, I didn't have a blueprint or somebody to look up to when I was in the hospital to be like, yeah, 5 years down the road, like, life is possible, 10 years down the road, life is possible. And I was like, well, look, I feel like we could do that. I feel like I could do that. And so we partnered with, I was an intern at the one in Levine Children's Hospital, but Seacrest Studios, which is part of Ryan Seacrest Foundation. And they basically set up these little studios in these children's hospitals around the country. And, musical guests, artists, celebrities of all walks of life can come in there, see the kids, spend time with them, but we approached it with a different angle. Like, they don't normally have former patients come in. And what we heard, especially this last couple of weeks, we've gone to 6 different hospitals in the last few weeks, was the kids saying how much they appreciated, like, knowing that there was a future out there, knowing that there was so much more to just the life that they know, which is being in and out of the hospital, going through treatments, surgeries. And again, as a former patient, like, none of your kids, none of your friends, like, have any clue what you're going through. And as a kid, you feel like you're missing out on the whole world. When in reality, I was in the hospital for a total of 6 months. So we're 3 months into this new year. 3 months from now, I would have been out of the hospital. Like, it goes by so much faster than you think. But at the time, as a kid, you feel like you're missing out on the world, and you feel like you have no hope and no belief. And I was like, look, I want to get back to the hospital staff that showed a lot to me. But I also want to talk to these kids and let them know that, look, like, even if we're playing games or just joking around or having fun, it's like, there's so much more to life. And I told, our biggest message when I talked to them was like, this is only going to make you guys stronger. Like, you guys have such a unique experience that when you get out of here, it's going to make you so much stronger if you allow it. If you use this experience to learn that perspective, learn that change, learn that hope, learn that belief, then yeah, you're going to be you're going to walk through life with a whole new set of armor, like I said before, and it's going to be awesome. And listen, it was so much fun. We're probably like halfway through. We have to hit the Northeast, and then we're doing the West Coast tour as well. So I'm excited. It's been a lot of fun. And I never knew how much it would be therapeutic for me too. Right. Like being back at the hospital and seeing the smiles on the kids' faces, like, was so uplifting to me. And if I was having a bad day, like one of the days I had a really bad travel day, like delayed 3 hours, missed some meetings. They had to, reschedule all this stuff. I get there for the 45 minutes I was there. The rest of my day was like unbelievable, right? You walk in with such a new perspective, and yeah, it's been a joy. It's been an absolute joy.
I mean, I can tell just energetically you're living your purpose, um, and what a gift to provide hope for kids who were I mean, really,
Hmm.
in some way, it's kind of like inner child work of you're kind of you're giving yourself the things that you once needed, and you're doing that in a different way, obviously. But I really think that we become who we need, who
Hmm.
we needed, and you're a perfect example of that. I also believe the power of belief in relation to healing, even with your physical body, is a really important tool and gift that you're instilling in these kids, because I think we all need an example that, hey, other people have made it out. And not only have they made it out, they're massively succeeding after they've made it out. And honestly, would this be your life and your purpose if you didn't go through that? Maybe
Right.
it would be different and shaped in a different way. But, I really believe that some things in life, not everything, but some things in life, we are really destined to go through, to pull from, and to share and help others. And you're living
Hmm.
proof of that.
Yeah, I 100% agree that I mean, I can tell you that my trajectory would probably not have gone down this path, but I would say my biggest calling with, especially with the hospital tours, with the speaking and everything else, was to kind of be a voice that I needed. Because I was going through these things. I was unique for sure, but like I wanted so badly to see that there was, and we all do, right? We want to see what the future is going to look like while we're going through it, but that's not how life works. And so it's just like, can we be a voice to provide hope, to provide positivity, and to provide belief? Because somebody out there does need it, and is sitting there in a very hopeless space, like I was sitting in. And if I just had a tap on the shoulder that was like, look, this is going to be terrible right now. This might suck. But if you give it time, if you keep having hope, if you keep having belief, there will be a day where you'll see the light and things will start to turn around and things will get better. And I've always been a big believer that like I use this phrase, I sign everything that I do with it. It's called stay lit. I write stay lit. And it's just a reminder to like keep that internal flame inside of us, like
Yeah.
going, right? And as long as we keep that internal fire going, then there's a chance for things to turn around. There's a chance for things to get better. And so, yeah, I usually sign off. I send my emails with it, stay lit, and most people, it's like you say that or they read it and it's like they smile or whatever, right? Because it's unique, it's different, but it's like, I get it. I get that. So it's like, stay lit. That's it.
Multiple meanings behind that. I like it.
Hmm.
Hunter, you're such a blessing. And I'm really, really grateful that you were open to sharing your story with my audience. And I know that you're going to continue to powerfully impact the people who you connect with. And I want people to be able to connect with you. So, what is the best way they can work with you, connect with you, reach out to you?
I'd say for me, the best way is either go to our website, which is macmentality.com, or my socials. You could go either one. It's like Mac Mentality on Instagram, or you could do Connor Mckemey on Instagram, Twitter, or sorry, X, and all of my socials are attached on the website as well. But like messages or emails, everything is there. I try as best I can to get back to people as quickly as possible. Obviously, we travel and we do events, but listen, if you're in the business of trying to get hope, trying to provide positivity, trying to provide perspective. Like, we want to work with you, we want to partner with you. We think we can provide a great perspective that can make a difference. And I appreciate you having me on and allowing me to spread that. I think you do such a wonderful job as well about rocking some change, right?
Thank you. Yeah, so I will drop all the links in the show notes so you can easily connect with Connor. I think this has been one of my favorite interviews that I've done this year. So
I appreciate it.
and I hope you guys rock your comeback. Thanks for listening. Make sure to get a copy of my latest book, Rock Your Comeback, The Down to Earth Guide to Reclaiming Your Power, just about everywhere books are sold. Join the Comeback Club for exclusive access, masterclasses, and more. And I always love to know what you think, so make sure to shoot me a DM or leave me a review. Thanks for listening to the Rock Your Comeback podcast. I hope you're feeling inspired, motivated, and ready to take on the world. Now go step back into your power. The world's been waiting for you. But first, if you could, leave me a review or share with a friend. Thank you.